This story is so cool. Our next guest is a 22-year-old woman who noticed a suspicious mole on a complete stranger's neck. And what happened just goes to show that if you see something wrong, say something. You got to take a look at this. Pre-med student and hockey fan Nadia used her cell phone to alert a complete stranger named Brian about a suspicious mole she saw on his back. She got his attention through plexiglass and showed him a message on her phone alerting him of what she thought to be a cancerous mole. Brian shrugged off the message, but soon realized it actually saved his life after his doctor took a biopsy of the mole and discovered it was a malignant melanoma. Brian knew he had to thank his mystery hero. With the help of social media, Brian and Nadia reunited in the new year. He invited her back to a hockey game where he, the Vancouver Canucks, and Seattle Krakens showed their gratitude by surprising her with $10,000 towards college tuition. Just goes to show that speaking up can change someone's life, even in the most unusual places. And joining us now via Zoom are Nadia and Brian. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Nadia, congratulations. Thank you for being the person that you are. So walk us through how you managed to spot Brian's mole and what stood out to you and why you brought it to his attention.
Sure. We were seated right in front of the plexiglass, and so the players and the staff were all within just a couple of feet of me. And one man, who I later found out was Brian, happened to walk in front of me just during one quick moment. And when he outstretched his arm to hand his coworker something, the back of his jacket slipped down just a couple of inches, and he happened to be right in front of me. Being super curious, I leaned forward, and I caught a glimpse of this mole. And I just noticed immediately that it had all the hallmarks of skin cancer. And I only had a couple of seconds to look at it, but I noticed that it was discolored. It had different, brown spots. It looked smeared, it had a irregular border, and it also looked raised. And I knew that a doctor would likely biopsy this, but it looked untouched. Which to me signified that there was a really high chance that Brian had no idea that this was there, let alone possibly cancerous. So I made up my decision then that if that was my father out there, I would want someone to say something. And so I had to find a way to communicate that to him.
Brian, what was going through your head when you see this nutty person trying to get your attention, trying to tell you something? How did you respond?
I didn't. Obviously I read the note, but it threw me off. And it wasn't until the next day when I was back home from Seattle and I had a doctor look at it, and he didn't like it either. So then it was, let's get it off my body or out of my body.
Well, as we just discussed with Dr. Batra, that's what you need to do, is get a diagnosis. So you got a biopsy, and what was the diagnosis?
I was malignant melanoma in situ, which is the first, it's skin cancer on the outer layer of skin, and it's not invasive. So I was told I'm being diagnosed with cancer and cured of cancer in the same phone call. And that if this hadn't been noticed 5 years from now, I would not be having this conversation about this mole in the back of my neck. It could be fatal. So
that's correct. As the name says, malignant melanoma, potentially a deadly process. So Dr. Batra, back to you. Tell us again why it's so important to catch melanoma early.
In terms of why it's so critical and why your public service was so valuable, is that skin cancer of this type is very time sensitive. So with melanoma, the earlier you catch it, the more likely you are to cure it. And left to its own devices, it can spread to lymph nodes, it can spread to other organs in the body and be lethal. So early detection is key, and you really aided in that, Nadia. And I'm so glad Jessica encouraged you, Red, to go get this taken care of, because it really was that partnership that very likely prevented a much, much worse outcome.